Welcome to the ABQ Accent, where catalysts, innovators, and risk takers share what their accent is on their work. Like a spoken accent, we all have an inflection or emphasis on where we put our energy. Join us to learn how these folks are putting their accents to work, building their vision of the future, and how you can get involved. Hello, I'm Mariah Harrison here with the ABQ Accent. My guest today is Matthew Carter. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So Matthew and I met a couple of years ago when I was harassing him for some data for the current program that he works for. His role here at the city is a project planner for the Public Art and Urban Enhancement Division.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a mouthful because I feel like the programs you work for have depth and width, and there's so much to talk about.
Yes, there is. We do a lot of things.
We do a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah, including your own podcast here at the city.
Yes, it's called Take Another Look.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to promote that. We'll talk more about that later. So as a whole, you are bringing a world of work privately and your own sort of artistic talent and encouraging other people in the city to provide their talent to the city, to the larger role that you have here. And I want to hear about that trajectory. So overall, you got your BA in Fine Arts with concentrations in studio glass and ceramics, and both of those just different worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Joined the city with this particular program in 2008. And as I said, you have studio glass manufacturing industry, art installation, handling, gallery curations, etc. And you are in the care and maintenance of the public art collection, which I wanted to bring up because care and maintenance is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Right. Not to mention the curation and coordination of the installations. Right. So talk to me about the world of work, and then you can add on, but let's start at the beginning. You came to New Mexico by way of a history museum and a glass studio program. Mm-hmm. Go for it.
So, I'm not from New Mexico. I've lived in lots of different places, and West Virginia is just one of the stops along the way. Mm-hmm. I think the thread that kind of went through, really looking back and kind of delving back and how did I get to this place? How did I get into the arts and all that other stuff? I've always been involved in the arts in various forms. Early on, it was music and theater. I still do a little bit of music playing wise, but I come from a family of musicians. My mother was a singer. My sister is a violinist in a local symphony up in Minnesota. And my dad was in corporate America. So I think that's what got the administrative side of me in there. So the thread kind of went through. I went off to college. I needed an elective. I saw a glass blowing class and I fell in love with it. And that changed my trajectory to do that. After graduating, I was looking at going to grad school to put together a portfolio that would be good enough to get into grad school. And during that time, a glass company was looking for a new designer. And I had interned with them over the summer, previous summers. And they approached me and said, would you like to come down and do some work for us? And then that kind of changed my trajectory from graduate school to being a design director for a glass manufacturing company in Milton, West Virginia.
The Pilchuck?
No,
right?
No. The company was called Blinko Glass Company.
Blinko.
Yes. And they're over 100 years old, or about 150 years old now, but they started off in antique stained glass, sheet glass for stained glass artists, and dalle de verre, which is French for slab glass. It's the thick glass that you see in the windows. You might see some around town here. And then they started manufacturing tableware. And so that's kind of when they brought me down, I ran the design program for that and did decorative glassware for them. Towards the end of that tenure, I hooked up with a local museum, the Huntington Museum of Art.
No joke, huge museum.
Yes, it's a great museum. I think it's for a regional museum, it has a stellar collection of contemporary as well as historic artwork. Yeah. And then I was pitching them an idea to build a studio up on the hill because the museum was up on the hill to teach glass classes as well as do things for their gift shop and everything, product line for them. That didn't really pan out, but they asked me to come on board as an education coordinator. So I ran their education program and their docent program, and they had 5 studios behind the museum that were photography, printmaking, drawing, ceramics, and another one. And did that for a couple years. Met a West Virginia girl, got married. And that's how we, she was also an artist. I decided at the time to go back to grad school and work on a ceramics master's. She graduated with an MA in sculpture, decided to do an MFA. And so that's what brought us out to New Mexico.
Okay.
And so I left my master's program because I was like, I'm kind of done making vessels for right now. And then I needed to find work. And I through a family contact, I contacted the director of the art museum at the time just to see what was going on in the arts world here in Albuquerque. He put me in contact with the Balloon Museum. They brought me on board. Nice. And then I just kind of naturally progressed through the city system. And almost 20 years later, here I am, doing collection management for the public art program.
Blink of an eye.
In a blink of an eye. So that was the story. 20 years and 30 seconds.
Understood. And it can feel like that really sometimes, but you have such a wealth of knowledge, I think, that you're bringing to this position. You're in the right place at the right time.
Right.
And I want to also give you kudos. I think it's really amazing that you've seen at the Balloon Museum grow from what it was when you first came to.
Well, it was still under construction when I got on board. And one of my responsibilities, one of my duties was to help do the permanent exhibits and lay those out and work with the curator collections there and kind of work on that level. And, some of the gondolas that were suspended, doing the work and prepping those to get up in the air and everything. So, so.
I mean, there is fun in curation because you have hanging things in high places and funky ways. And
yeah, if you like heights.
Well, and that's an international museum. So did you have any exhibits or maybe any that stuck to mind where you worked with folks from around the world?
No, not really. I think because it was so early on and I was only there for about a year, and then I was kind of moved over. I kind of got transferred over at the art museum and doing the same thing, but doing the preparation and installation of the artwork at the art museum. So I think when I kind of got over there, that was when the Spain exhibits were going on. So that's kind of getting the experience of the international installation and working with professionals from the museums from over in Spain to install the work that they loaned to the Albuquerque at the time.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
What year was that? Do you remember?
That was 2006 and 7. Well, no, wait. Yeah, about 2006 and 7, because I moved here in 2005.
Okay.
And so I was, when I joined Public Art, it was around 2008.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm continuously impressed with Albuquerque Museum anyway.
Yeah, it's a great museum.
Special stuff.
It's a great museum, and they're even doing, the work that they're doing right now is great, and it's the people that they're bringing in and the exhibits that they're putting on.
Well, third Thursdays on top of everything else. They're very community-minded, and they have a lot of activities.
Yeah, and then was it the salsa dance Under the Stars? Yes.
Yeah. Made a fool of myself there more than once.
All right.
And so now I have the privilege of having an office just down the hall from you, and I also got to see the growth of the Gallery 1, where the public art offices are right adjacent to or behind, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that's been, I guess, just sort of a luxury of being on the first floor for me, is being able to walk by and see the installation of, I think we're on our 4th installation now?
Yeah, I believe it's our 4th. It might be even our 5th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, since December.
Since, I think the first show was, maybe early February, so.
Okay. Well, we had our co-opening that night, so it was fun. And I'd love for you to speak a little bit about that work, and then we can dive into some other stuff. What's up with Gallery 1 and public art?
Right now, we're doing a show with 10 artists and the 6 past poet laureates. So a couple years ago, I believe when Jessica was the poet laureate, she did a reading of her poem at the convention center, and it was very moving. And the program manager, Sherry Brueggemann, she just, was like, we need to do something with our poet laureates. And we thought, how can we do a visual thing with poems and whatnot, and it just kind of started naturally progress to 10 punch 10 work. And so over time we kind of developed an idea. We had, through the mayor's youth corps, we had a couple interns that we thought we would, turn them loose on this idea, and they started pulling some information together, and then they moved on, and we kind of continued that idea, and so we put out a call for local 10 artists, punch 10 artists, to partner up with our past poet laureates and kind of try and do a forced marriage on some levels to see who connects and who doesn't connect. And what came out is some beautiful artwork. So we have 6 current works that are on display that incorporate their poem. Those pieces will eventually are part of the collection now, and we'll go over to the convention center for permanent installation.
That's great.
And we have examples of their work as well in the gallery. And
I love it.
yeah, I think it's an interesting marriage, and it's nice. It's turning out really well.
Really unique pieces, and the fact that they're partnered, and it's not one individual artist paired with maybe one photographer or something.
Right.
It's a whole story of the arc of, well, and I haven't read them all, but the poet laureate experience in Albuquerque.
Right, and the other thing that we embraced is when you go to each one, there's a little QR code that you can, on your smartphone, you can click on it, and it'll take you to a video of the poet reading a snippet of their poem.
And believe me, that's worth it. Every single
Yeah.
one of them are incredibly powerful, moving poets.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I was looking forward to that opening last week for that reason too.
Yeah.
And also the pieces are large. They are not 11 by 8.5. These are large
no.
pieces.
No, we didn't really give any restrictions. We just said, make a piece that, best suits your style and embraces the poem that is going to be incorporated.
Yeah. So people need to come to that. How long is that exhibition?
It's up until, I believe, September 20th.
Is there a website for that?
It's the Gallery One website. So it's just through the cabq.gov/Gallery One.
I'll add that
Or
to
go
that.
to the public art page and you can go to a link.
Okay. I'll put it in the notes.
Yeah.
To be sure. And so the extension of that larger work of your life, in addition to your personal life, because we have so much to cover there, and
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think you're going to get away with that.
No.
The public art program, what does that mean? And where did it come from?
Well, in 1978, the city council passed an ordinance to allow for public artwork, 1% for art.
Almost 46 years ago.
Yeah, and recently, just last year, city council revisited our ordinance and increased it to 1.5%. So it's now
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal because the 0.5% is really about, because we needed additional funds to help take care of our collection, and we have about 1,800 objects in the public art collection. A lot of them are indoors at City Hall, libraries, and all that stuff. A lot of two-dimensional work, but we do have close to 200 plus items out in the public, and little sculpture parks or little pocket parks and a lot of murals and other things like that. And so those need a lot, as like we say, care and feeding.
Yeah.
And so we, that's what a majority of my job is now, is working with vendors and contractors and conservators to go out and take care of the collection. And that's why we really, the Arts Board and really lobbied City Council to help increase the ordinance to cover those costs, because, it takes a lot to take care of public art. So.
And it's high quality pieces, and they're large, and they're small, and they cover the gamut of art.
They do. I mean, you have murals, you have bronzes, you have just abstract sculptures, and they just kind of pop up out of anywhere. And those, each one requires a kind of a case-by-case basis on what you do and what kind of treatment you do. And so it's a lot of, skilled, but also trial and error, because you just have to respond to whatever happens to them naturally by the environment, as well as sometimes, unfortunately vandalized.
Yeah. So given that it's been around that long, do we have pieces that have been in the collection since 78?
I believe the first piece that was I think the earliest piece was early 81, 82, because it took a couple years once the ordinance passed, a couple years to kind of get the program up and running. And I think one of the earliest pieces is the Southwest Pieta by Luis Jimenez in Martineztown.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we're actually getting ready to do a major restoration on that piece in the next couple of months.
God, I have so many questions. Public art is a big, like you said, a priority of your work in the Office of the Department of Arts and Culture. And then there's the Urban Enhancement Trust Fund board. And then clarify for me, that is separate from the Arts Board?
Yes, two separate boards, two separate programs.
And then there's the Veterans Memorial Review.
Yes.
Which you are all sort of helping to
Yes, the Veterans Memorial Review Committee oversees any memorial or tribute that is installed out at Veterans Park, New Mexico Veterans Park. Yes, and that is that's made up of one Arts Board member, a member of the New Mexico Veterans Foundation, which helps manages the park, United Veterans Organization of Albuquerque, and then the architect of record who kind of helped design the park back in the day. So and then there's advisory with parks and others. So it's a 5-person board, and we kind of review all proposals and applications that are placed there to make sure that it adheres to the ordinance and the guidelines that were established.
Well, and it's not just the outdoor pieces. There's also the visitor center.
Right.
It's really actually
well we're not really involved with the visitor center and the collection that's within the visitor center. We're really focused on the memorials that are out in the park, and it's specifically for New Mexico veterans and those veteran support organizations.
I really enjoyed walking past those a couple of weeks ago. I needed to make the time. I thought I'd bring a picnic lunch and just spend some time and walk.
It's a beautiful little park.
Yeah. And there's shade.
Yeah, there's shade.
It's great. Yeah, so I'm coming to the point where, understanding the broad scope of what across town of the art and the artists that urban art is able to highlight. What are the ways that some of these artists can get involved with this big program?
A couple of ways. I mean, don't be a stranger. Reach out to us. We're happy to answer any questions about process or how to get involved. There's, we actively put out calls for art and calls for qualifications. So, get involved with our e-newsletter, because that's when we do a lot of announcements and all that other stuff. But even if you're an artist or if you're even a citizen that is interested in public art, or even the Urban Enhancement Trust Fund, one way to get involved is, we have 2 boards and we have vacancies on our boards. So we're, to volunteer, and what better way to get to understand the collection and how you basically marriage art and government and navigate that system by being at the table and serving as representative of your district and on one of those boards. So to do that, you go to boards and commissions and submit an application.
There's a drop-down menu.
Yep.
You choose the one of them you want.
Exactly.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
So I should get on that newsletter as well. And in that vein, can you tell me more about? You mentioned Mayak, the Mayor's Youth Advisory Corps, and I've seen them do a number of really interesting things over the last couple of years, but I wonder what kind of, do you work with them very closely lately, or do we want to do more?
No, I haven't really worked with them very closely. The last one was when we did the Punch 10, and it would be interesting to do more, but the challenge we have is that we're all over the place trying to manage these other projects within the program and manage the gallery. So it's sometimes very difficult to plug them in because we're running so fast. But now that we have the gallery, I think we might be able to get them more plugged into the programming and the aspects of the gallery itself, and be more involved in that than getting involved in how does this public art piece and going to the committee meetings and this, that, and the other. That could be really challenging. But with the gallery, I think it could be a little bit easier to get them plugged in to kind of understand what that aspect of the process is and how you put together a show and where does that come from.
I would love that really idea. Like even wrapping up a semester of theirs, what could they get done, and understanding the curation of a show and everything from start to finish. Like you said, the marriage of potential artists or the discussion of an idea with an individual artist all the way through to a show opening and exhibition.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And like I said, the scope of your work is big, and I wonder what you are seeing and what you are working on that you really believe is innovative these days.
Well, it depends on what your definition of innovative is. If you're thinking of technology and all that other stuff, we are slowly moving into that realm. We recently changed the ordinance to allow for digital art and temporary art, which sometimes falls into digital. So,
Makes sense.
so we're kind of moving into that direction slowly. But the other definition of innovative is, like I said earlier, is the marriage of art and government and navigating the bureaucracy that comes with that sometimes, and helping those artists get their vision and get their artwork viewed through that process. And so it's knowing the system and knowing how a creative mind works and knowing how the government works, and navigating that through and staying within the rules, but also it's like how can we kind of nudge it this way, nudge it that way, get them through the process that they're not necessarily used to, in terms of I have permitting and this, that, and the other, and lane closures, so helping them on that level is also a very innovative way, because each project is different, and each project requires different types of requirements and things and roadblocks and this, that, and the other. And so that's, I think, it just depends on what your definition of innovative is. So.
Well, and a little bit of care and feeding, like you said.
Yeah, a little bit of care and feeding.
It says a lot that you're so open to the potential for different projects, and that you're not making somebody go through a checklist or a folder of this is how we do it, get used to it. That's not how it works.
No, and what we're also interested in, we're not always interested in we want established artists. It's great working with established artists who know how to do it, know how to do public art, but we're also interested in cultivating and bringing on new artists that might have never been introduced to the field of public art versus regular art. Yeah. And not that there's a huge difference, but there's just a different process in doing things. And so, in cultivating that emerging artist that, we've had that opportunity in the past where, their first commission was through Albuquerque, and then they've gone on and just really become pretty successful in other parts of the state, but also other parts of the country.
I would love to hear one of those stories.
Yeah.
So Matt, in addition to the stories of your artists, I want to hear more of your stories. Okay. Because we talked about how you came to Albuquerque.
Right.
Talk about some of the work that you're passionate about, but I also feel like there's some missing puzzle pieces. One, I want to again give you so much gratitude and thanks for helping me when I first came to the city. I had no idea what departments were doing with particular projects, and you were great at holding my hand, so to speak. But we also bonded on the fact that we love the outdoors. And I'd like to know what keeps you grounded. What are you doing outside of work?
I get out. I mean, like you said, getting outdoors is very important. That's something that, when I came to New Mexico, that was one of the draws. I mean, I don't know if being out east and being in West Virginia or being in Minnesota, or, I also have a connection to the East Coast of being born in Connecticut and family in Rhode Island and New Hampshire and stuff. It's a different type of environment. In some ways, you feel very boxed in. And so when I came out here, it's you're not boxed in. The skies, it's, you hear it, it's very, it's like, it sounds very cliche-ish, but it's like, it's huge. There's no framework. There's no, if you're looking at it through a lens or anything like that, it's not boxed in. It just goes out for everywhere. And the nice thing is you can go in any direction. It seems like 20 miles in the middle of nowhere. Yep. And you, even though it's not true, but you feel like you're the first person that's like walked on this area of the land. Yep. And it's not true, but it's like, no one's been here, but I feel like
I'm alone right now.
Yeah, but I'm alone, and it's quiet, and it's the stillness and all those things. That's what's, So I like getting out hiking and doing that way, but I also like getting out on the back roads and traveling the back roads on, either a little road trip on the car or just kind of packing up the motorcycle and going somewhere and doing it that way too, which is a nice way of just kind of disconnecting and recharging and doing those types of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything you just said. Well, and also the little road trips. I mean, you can do a day trip, you can do 2 days out into Mexico, and just some favorite spots you might keep going back to.
Well, I mean, I just one of the spots I go to, it's not really out in the middle of nowhere, but I hit Madrid a lot. There's a great little coffee place there, Java Junction, that I go to. I'll take a day off or on a Saturday morning, I just get on the motorcycle and go. And I usually go earlier in the morning when no one's really there before everyone gets there, so you can just kind of
find a parking spot.
Find a parking spot, but also get a nice little spot, get a coffee, get a nice little spot, and just kind of be there, be still, just kind of listen to the and witness the motion of the day before it gets too chaotic and too crazy. And then when it starts to get that way, you just kind of swing your leg back over the bike and head back home or go somewhere else, through those little weaves.
I always take Highway 14 to Santa Fe. It's just, and I know it in and out now, and so it seems like every time I go down a back road, I'm reminded of my dad always taking the back roads. But there are some that are familiar to us that just bring us this different sense of peace and connection.
Yeah, it's the road less traveled, and sometimes that's the best way to do it, and it gives you a chance to clear your head and have those kind of internal conversations or whatever. When I'm on the motorcycle, I call them my helmet confessions, because I sit there and I have conversations. I'm literally talking to myself out loud, getting it and hearing your voice, and just whether you're having a conversation about where you're at, where you want to go, or what's going on, or unfortunately for me, it's I've lost both my parents, so having those conversations with your parents that you can't have anymore, but letting them know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then being open enough and still enough and clearing your head to let the universe and hear their voices come back to you and or just say, this is good, so that's what I do.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful way to honor your family and connections, but also time to recognize that you need that space.
Oh yeah. I don't think we do it enough. And I think, finding that moment, finding that stillness, whatever it might be. Another way is, early in the morning. I mean, the older I get, it seems like the earlier I wake up. And,
true.
So it's like the mornings are more precious. And whether you're going out, sitting on your back porch with a nice cup of coffee, and just listening to the stillness, listening to the air, listening to just the quietness is important. And then you can get yourself in a place to mentally go out into the world and address and tackle whatever situations that might come your way, positive or negative or whatever it might be.
It's a really good practice, and it takes practice.
It does. Yeah.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I want you to give me maybe 3 values that sort of encompass a lot of your work and your personal life, because what I'm hearing is things like adventure, peace, solitude. What else is there?
I would say kindness and respect. I think, treat yourself with kindness, but more importantly, treat others with kindness. And at the same time, give them the respect that about where they're coming from, and meet them wherever you can meet them. It's hard sometimes, but it's important. And the third word would probably be grace.
That's an easy.
Yeah.
I will accept that easily without diving into it, because it really is bigger than it sounds. Grace is a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a gift. I really I appreciate you being open to chat and getting to know you more. There's a lot more, like I said, to get to know, and I would encourage people to find the podcast that your department promotes. What is it called again?
Take another look. We do it about every once a month. We try and get an episode out, and it sometimes mirrors what we're doing in the gallery. Sometimes it's mirroring some other big things that we're working on as a program. We've kind of dedicated several episodes towards. We did this huge kind of public art census and going out. partnering with the county to go out and kind of record and see what's out there. What is public art? And more importantly, we had canvassers to go out and mark what was public art, what was not public art, and there was criteria that they kind of followed, and there was really it was interesting to come back. One of the things that we did learn, now we have about 1,800 pieces in the collection. I can't remember how many pieces the county has, but the number that they came back was like around 10,000 works of art that the canvassers identified as
Incredible.
Artworks. Now, whether they were publicly funded or privately funded or whatever it was, and then whether it was, and then there was categories. They've kind of pared it down because of the criteria that our consultants did, but it's still hovering on 8,000 works that are credited and non-credited. And so, and we're currently now we're also reaching out to the Pueblos to get permission to go on the Pueblos to make sure we incorporate that information as well, because it's really incorporating Bernalillo County, the city in Bernalillo County. So we're really working on that too, and making sure that we ask permission, and not just
I think you said respect earlier. Yeah. And what you're also saying is you're honoring other people's lived experience in a way to incorporate them where they're at.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a number of ways, like I said earlier, we could go from here. And so if you'd like, love to have you back. Maybe we could do a dual podcast.
Sure.
Something like that. Because I really love promoting the public art and the Urban Enhancement Trust Fund's work, and I like learning more about the Vietnam Memorial too. Yeah. So, but as a whole, Matt, thank you for your work, and also thank you for enforcing the fact that public art pieces don't necessarily belong in our offices. Yes. Because we've all asked to have this art hung. Yes. And it's a no.
We don't do it in private offices because, it has to be publicly accessible. That's why when you come to City Hall and you see them on the walls, it's all publicly accessible. That's right. And if they're in the lobbies, and unfortunately in certain circumstances, we have to be behind locked doors because of safety and all that other stuff. But we let the people know. It's like if someone comes to look at a piece of artwork that's in your lobby and you can't get it, you have to let them in. It's public, and knock on the door, say, hey, I want to see the public art. So come and see it. We have 11 floors of here at City Hall that have artwork on it.
Sure do. Yeah, which is a public space.
Which is a public space.
Well, on that note, is there anything else that we missed that you want to be sure to let people know about your work and how to get involved?
Well, again, I think the main thing is, you can go to our website, get our e-newsletter, sign up for that. But also, if you're interested in serving on either the Arts Board or the Urban Enhancement Trust Fund Board, talk to your counselor, go to the boards and commissions, submit an application and get your name in saying, I want to serve on one of these boards. We have several vacancies right now. And that's the best way to really get involved. Another way is, in a way, if you want to see if there's a piece of public art out there that you love and you want to adopt, in terms of just keeping an eye on it. And if you see something that happens to us, please, reach out to us to let us know so we can make sure that we're taking care of it.
Yeah, great. Good point. Yeah. And we'll put, people are able to contact you via the website.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Matt, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you today.
You're so welcome.
So I hope everybody else comes back for another ABQ Accent. Thank you.